Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Sedgemoor District Council's Community Scrutiny Advisory Committee meeting. My name is Councillor Hilary Bruce. I'm chair of the committee. I'm going to hand over today's committee manager, Layla Nicholson, who's going to do a bit of housekeeping for us. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just to say that the meeting's being recorded today. If you could keep your mute buttons on, your microphones muted, and your cameras on for the time being. And then if you want to ask a question or anything, if you can use the hands up button, that would be really useful. And I think that's it for the moment.
Thank you very much, Layla. Just before we start, I'll just say my connection's a bit dodgy, so if I go out and come back in again, it'll just be for a few seconds. So I'm going to go around the committee and ask members to introduce themselves and confirm that they can see and hear okay, please. So I'll start with Councillor Liz Scott.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chairman. It's Councillor Liz Scott from Maxdale. I can see and hear everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Alexia Bartlett has sent her apologies today. So Councillor Anthony Betty. No. Councillor Peter Clayton. No. Councillor Barry Crowe.
Yes, I can see and hear you perfectly, representing Puriton and Woolhavington.
Thank you, Councillor Crowe. Councillor Graham Godwin Pearson. Not here yet. Councillor Phil Harvey.
Yes, I can see and hear you, though I know you can't see me.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Councillor Liz Levy.
Hello, Councillor Liz Levy representing HAMP. I can see and hear everything and everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Diego Rodriguez.
Hello, Councillor Rodriguez, Bridgewater, Dunware, and I can see and hear everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gary Wong. I think you're muted, Councillor Wong.
Councillor Gary Wong, I can see and hear everyone.
Okay, thank you. And we have officers here today. So we have with us Christy Blackwell, and we have Nathaniel Lucas with us today, and Dorothy O'Farrell for Legal and Governance, and Layla Nicholson for Democratic Services. We also have with us today Councillor Janet Keane as portfolio holder. And if there are any other members present, I'd like to welcome them here. I'm not sure if we've got any other members joined us today, but I think that's the full complement. So can I ask if, as we're going through, if people have got any questions, please use the hands up feature on Teams. It's much easier for me to follow to get people in order if they have questions. And with that, I'll start the meeting. So the first item is the apologies for absence. And I have Councillor Alexia Bartlett sent her apologies via me. Anything else, Layla?
No, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. And passing on to agenda item 2 is to confirm the minutes of the meetings of the committee, which was held on the 14th of March 2022 and 13th of June 2022. Does anybody have any comments or corrections that they'd like to make on those minutes? Okay. Anybody happy to propose them as a correct record? Thank you, Councillor Rodriguez. Someone to second?
I'll second that then, Hilary.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Okay, so they are recorded as a correct record. Thank you. Item 3, any urgent business? I'm not aware of any. Layla? No. Okay, thank you. And public speaking time, are any members of the public registered to address the committee?
No, Chairman.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Sorry, Chair, to interrupt. Just had a message from Councillor Betty saying that he's running late from work, but he aims to join soon.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so that was a no to public speakers, Layla, yeah?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any declarations of interest from any members of the committee? No declarations of interest. Okay, so flying through the first bit. We get to item 6, and this is the Climate and Ecological Emergency Joint Consultation Panel update. So this is to receive an update on the work and progress of the panel. And we have with us today Christy Blackwell. Welcome to the committee, Christy. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Chair. And can I also welcome to join us Sue Tomlinson, my colleague from Somerset West and Taunton, who oversees the team. Hello.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Sue.
Hi. And as you mentioned, our portfolio holder, Janet Keane, is with us on the call today, so thank you. So I came to the Scrutiny Board back in July, I think it was, and gave you an update, and this is kind of the follow-on the next quarter. So the partnership that we created with Somerset West and Taunton has now been in existence for just over a year, and the joint consultation member panel that we set up is part of that structure, and some of those members are members of Scrutiny. And we also ensured that this scrutiny panel, community scrutiny, would oversee the outputs that the joint consultation panel were viewing. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. The joint consultation panel has met now 4 times, and that panel is set up to oversee the work of the Sedgemoor District Council and Somerset West and Taunton Council action plans around their climate change strategies. It's important to remember that there is a separate structure for the county-wide climate strategy, climate emergence strategy, and so that sort of sits outside of what I'm going to talk to you about today. However, it's worth noting that with the work that we're doing around LGR, there is kind of a blurring, a merging of work. So the consultation panel did receive an update on quite a lot of the work that we are doing across the county now as well. So I will reference that in a short while. So we provided the highlight report that goes to the consultation panel to Scrutiny in advance. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to read through that. It's worth saying that the highlight report is a document that's ever changing. I think I mentioned that last time. Although the information that's going into it is ever changing, the actual structure of the highlight report is changing to suit our needs as we go through this process. And that we did have some feedback from the panel at the last meeting in terms of some of the language that we've used in it around projects being closed down. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any feedback from this meeting on that. I would welcome any questions, as would Sue, on the detail, but what I wanted to just take a moment to do, if I could, is just reference some of the work that has been ongoing within the partnership, and perhaps some of the officers that have been leading on that. So most specifically, recently you may have seen that we've now got 6 electric vehicle charging points within Northgate development, and that's work that's been led very much by our project manager Chris Bezic, who soon line manages, and you know, fantastic work that's been done to get those in situ and ready for the opening of Northgate. We've obviously also had Catherine Church as part of the team, who's delivered on the ecological emergency vision and action plan that has been through council and is now active. We are following up that work now with looking at how we can integrate that potentially through Pentana, as we are with our climate emergency actions, to hold officers to account and to receive updates on the work that's ongoing within those action plans. And also I'd just like to reference the work that Anna Mears and Olivia Clydesdale are doing, both project managers within the team, around our carbon emissions work, and undertaking quite technical work on our calculations so that we can understand where our highest emission points are and look to target our work around addressing those as we try and reach our net zero goals for 2030. So that's really the things I wanted to reference, aside from just mentioning to you the updates that the panel received on county-wide work. So just very quickly whizzing through the areas of work, there was a presentation on the retrofit work that our colleagues in Somerset Independence Plus have been leading on. There was also an update on a renewable energy plan for Somerset, on our electric charge vehicle I always get tongue-tied with that, electric vehicle charge points infrastructure. One day I'll get it out. Also the tree strategy for Somerset and how we're getting on with that, our carbon emissions baseline for the new unitary authority. And although we were due to receive a presentation, I think we're going to have a follow-up report, written report, because the officer couldn't make it, on the grassland strategy that's happening in Somerset West and Taunton. So that's just a whiz through of what happened at our most recent meeting, but I guess of most importance to you is the detail in the highlight report. And if I may just invite Sue if she would like to say anything. I haven't preempted that with Sue, but perhaps Sue, is there anything you wanted to add before we take any questions?
No, you covered it all, but like I say, happy to answer any questions in relation to the highlight report.
Thank you, Chair. You are on mute.
Thank you. That's happened. Would anybody like to ask any questions of Christy or Sue? Councillor Rodriguez.
Thank you. So I'm just scrolling up the page a bit. So I've just got three questions really on the highlight report, if I may. First one on page 3, the water refill stations, and you probably have an update on this, but only because I've not gone past it to check recently. Is that one on the High Street in Bridgewater now functioning?
I think unless you know any different than me, Sue, I think it's still undergoing testing. We're very reliant on Wessex Water to undertake the testing to make sure that's fit for use. And as far as I was aware in my most recent update, that testing hasn't yet been finalised. So I'm afraid it's not yet usable.
The only other thing I would add to that is that the testing with Wessex Water is very thorough. The one in Wellington that we installed did take quite a while for it to go through that process, because they just need to make sure they're 100% happy before it goes live. The one in Wellington, some oil got into the system and they had to do a flushing out of the system, which took quite a while for that to happen. So yeah, they will let us know when it goes live.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry, can I just add something else into that? And I know you've not asked this, but we are also getting some stats from Wessex Water on the amount of water that is used, and therefore they do a calculation. They've made an assumption that most people use a 500 milliliter plastic bottle to fill up. So therefore they're telling us how many plastic bottles we will save by the amount of water that's being used, which is a stat they said they hope to be able to provide us on a 6-monthly basis, which is something to look forward to.
Thank you. The second one was page 6 on the EV charging points, specifically on Northgate, on the Northgate ones. I was contacted by a resident about the EV charging points, and specifically about a Northgate one, where they sent me a screenshot of the cost of charging the vehicle there, and they sent me 2 screenshots, one of that one and one of another site locally, and basically the price difference of the 2 were considerably different. And he was saying, oh look, I mean, what he said was completely untrue, was look at the council ripping us off, sort of thing. I thought, hold on a minute, that's not quite right. But then again, I don't know how the pricing of this works, and maybe you can tell me now, if not in writing, how is it that the prices to charging the vehicle can be so different from one local area to another local area?
It's based on it's based on the amount that you're charged for your electric, and when you go into a new electricity deal, you don't go into a I can't think what words I want to use. Every April you've got the opportunity to join a scheme where you can get a better deal. If you join a scheme at a time outside of that, you get less favourable rates of electricity. So that could be one of the reasons, or it's just that because of electricity has just gone absolutely crazy, it might be that the council's on a really high rate now compared to whoever the other charging unit is with. What we can do is look into that in more detail and then provide a better written response. But it's really difficult, isn't it? Because people will see other charging units not charging as much, and there'll be a whole stack of reasons why that is. The council will be in a position where they need to obviously cover their costs as well. So we will have looked through how much we're going to charge people, and we will have gone through it carefully and considered what to charge. And we will have also have looked at what other people are charging in the area as well. It's going to also be dependent on what type of charger that is, because you've got 7 kilowatt, you've got 22 kilowatts, and you've got 50 kilowatts as well. So we'll have a look into it and come back to you with a written response.
Okay, and if I could just say, it may just be, I mean, I don't have an electric car, so I don't know, but this person did. So it may be something around communications, because what I got from his message was the council are ripping us off, which is not the case. But if that's what some electric car users are going to be thinking, then obviously that's not what we want them to think at all. Because it's a great thing what we're doing, providing these charging points.
Yes.
I have got another question, but I saw, Chair, that Janet's got her hand up. I don't know if she wants to comment on this.
Janet, would you like to comment on this, or is it a separate matter?
Am I there? Oh, yes, thank you. On those charging points, I've raised this before. Do you know if those public charging points, where there is a cost involved, the machine will issue a receipt? Because not everyone who is charging the car is the owner of that car. And therefore, if it's being done on behalf of someone else, for instance, an employer, there needs to be a record for someone to be reimbursed.
It doesn't issue you with like what we would know as a traditional receipt, a piece of paper. It doesn't do that. But if you're using an app to charge your vehicle, which you will be doing, then you'll get notification on there what you've spent. So you've got an electronic version of a receipt, but not a traditional receipt.
Thank you.
And if I may have my final question, Chair, page 1 and 2, just around surrounding tree planting, really. One of the things that Councillor Bruce and I mentioned or spoke about not long ago was about the at one of our meetings some time ago. It was put to us that we would, or it would be looked at having a kind of a tree mapping kind of thing happening to find out where all these trees have gone. The reason Councillor Bruce and I mentioned this because within our ward that we share with different councils, there were some trees that were damaged, and we stood there and we thought, hold on, but who planted these trees? We don't know, and there's no for us to see whether it was town council, district council, or some other stakeholder. So I just wondered, has that tree mapping been done, or is it going to be done for us to be able to access that information quite easily?
I'm not aware that any tree mapping has been done on any recently planted trees throughout certainly Sedgemoor district. I can put that question to our colleagues in Clean Surroundings to see whether they've got any information on that. With regard to tree planting generally, I just made very brief mention of the fact that I gave an update on the Somerset tree strategy at the consultation panel meeting. And work will be being done by an organisation that has been commissioned. They're called Evolving Forests, who are working with us to develop that strategy. They are doing some work around GIS mapping data to have a look at what is already in existence across the county, and obviously there'll be district data in there as well. So there could be some information coming out in terms of established trees. However, your question about new trees, I'm not aware, but I will take that to colleagues and see if I can get the answer.
Thanks, Christy. Is that okay, Councillor Rodriguez? Happy with that?
Yeah. The only thing I would say is we did ask about the tree mapping. I don't know how many meetings ago it was, and the impression that we were given was that could be done. So if that's not been done, then obviously that's a bit of a not a concern, but you know, I note that, but I would expect it to have been done. But yeah, point taken. Thank you.
I've not seen that point in the minutes where I would have picked it up. I apologise. I'll get that done and get back to you.
Thank you. Thanks,
Councillor Rodriguez. Good questions there. Christy, I think that one of the points that I pick up on there is comms is so important, and I think it's part of the work that you're doing. Comms is in there as well, but things like, you know, the charging rates for the cars, where trees have been and everything, that the people, you know, the public need to know these things. It's really important that we get those messages out really clear. And I think my concern when the trees, if people as we had, come to us and say, well, these trees have been damaged, who do they go to at the moment? Who would they report that to? They report it to us as a ward councillor, but still we're not clear as to where we go to report that. Can they be replaced? So it would be good to have clarity on that.
Yeah, I think that's some of the difficulty in that we found when we were setting up the tree fund, in that we were providing funding for local areas to plant trees, and then there was the issue of, well, who maintains them once they're planted, who actually owns them, who ensures that they aren't, you know, damaged or replaced if they are. So I can go back to Anna and see if we had some answers to those questions that were implemented from the outset of that plan, and see where we go from there.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Phil Harvey, you have a question?
Yes, Kirsty, can you just clarify the differences in the table between closed and completed?
I will refer to my colleague Sue around that one. That this is the what came up in the meeting in terms of the terminology that we've used that's slightly changed from the last report.
Yeah, I'm really sorry that it's caused confusion. We added in additional statuses to hopefully make it easier, and we now know that we need to make it better again. It's based on the fact that these highlight reports are done on a quarterly basis, and we wanted there to be able to distinguish between what's been closed for a while and what's been completed in this quarter. So if it says completed, it's supposed to mean that it's been completed in this quarter, and a closed action means that it was completed last time, so it's closed. So you kind of don't need to look at it anymore, because you would have known last time that it's completed. But we need to make that clearer.
Thanks for that, because it rather gave me the impression that we closed it because we decided to do no action at all.
No, that's not the case. It's just based on the fact that we're reporting quarterly, and it's a closed action. It's been completed. It's now closed off.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Any other questions from anyone on this item? No. Okay, that's fine. Well, thank you very much, Christy and Sue, for coming to present this update today. I think it just remains for the committee to note the update. And there would be normally another quarterly update in January. And the date for that, I think, is to be confirmed. We'll discuss that a bit more when we get to the work programme later on. But there may well be another quarterly update to come before vesting day, I understand. So we will confirm that later on. Okay. Thank you. If you wish to stay for the rest of the meeting, please feel free to do so. If you have other things to do, please feel free to leave. That's up to you. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to agenda item 7. I'm happy to welcome with us today Nathaniel Lucas, Service Manager for Economic Development, and he's coming to us today with an update on what's being done to aid the development and improvement of the shopping experience in the town centres in Sedgemoor. This is something that was looked at before in a previous meeting. So this is now an update that's coming up to us basically following that, just to tell us sort of what progress has been made on the various things that were presented in the past, and anything new really. So I'll hand over to Nathaniel. Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. So there are a couple of kind of different elements to the report. Hopefully you will have had a chance to skim through it, but what I'm going to do is just go through the report in terms of different projects that make up the different programs, and then once I get to the end of it, at each kind of program, then please feel free to ask any questions. I'm conscious that there is a lot of information and there are a lot of projects to go through, so I will try and keep it as interesting and as possible, and actually give you opportunities to kind of ask questions as and when you want. So in terms of improving the experience of town centres, I mean, one of the key programmes which you should all be aware of is the Bridgewater Town Deal. Obviously, it's focused within Bridgewater, but to provide a little bit of background, back in June last year, Bridgewater was successful in obtaining £23.2 million worth of investment into the town centre. That is across 11 projects, and like I said, I'll just run through them just to kind of give you a bit of an update where they are, and kind of next steps with them as well. So the first one is the tidal barrier. It's a huge project for Bridgewater. I think it's somewhere in the region of 100 to 107 million pounds to deliver it. And the purpose behind it from a town centre perspective is that with rising temperatures and the potential of flooding in the future, then the tidal barrier is a critical project in the sense of that it's protecting the town centre, keeping it above water, I suppose. And for the town deal, it's a contribution to the wider scheme of £2 million. And where we are in the process, I can confirm that the business case was submitted to government earlier on in the year. It's actually been signed off by government, so we now have the go-ahead to use that £2 million. We haven't drawn it down yet because the scheme itself or the wider project doesn't require it yet, but we will be drawing that down sometime next year. Just in terms of the project itself, it's at the detailed design stage in terms of the works around it, and I believe, although it's not technically my project, but works are starting on the access road towards the end of this year for that particular scheme. So some interesting times ahead with that one. The next project is Dumble Junction, again something you should all be aware of. It's a regional infrastructure project, and from a kind of town centre perspective, it supports the town centre by relieving congestion for people to be able to get into the town centre, but also it kind of unlocks growth from an employment land perspective, also from a housing perspective as well. Again, that's great for the town centre in terms of businesses, but also from a housing perspective, creating more footfall into the town centre as well. Where that one is, again, business case was submitted earlier on this year. I should say as well that the allocation from the town deal for this is £400,000. So it is again a contribution to the wider scheme. We have actually drawn down the funding from government for that one. That's currently in our account, and we've just completed the grant funding agreement with project partners. In this case, Somerset County Council as the Highway Authority. Just waiting for sign off from them, and then we will actually be transferring the money over to Somerset County Council to be able to start to deliver the scheme itself. The next one is the Celebration Mile. Again, I'm pretty certain that members are aware of this. It's a historic scheme for Bridgewater in the sense of that I think it was first created back in sort of 2008, 2009 as part of the Bridgewater vision. It's the biggest scheme within the Bridgewater Town Deal. So the total funding allocation for it is £9 million. And it covers 3 specific schemes within Bridgewater. So you have Eastover, you have Angel Crescent, and then you also have Clare Street as well. And what the Celebration Mile is looking to deliver really is kind of public realm improvements. It's creating new places and spaces within the towns, and that might be for for events or those sorts of things as well. And ultimately making it easier to access the town centre and just generally make it a more kind of pedestrian and friendly environment as well. I should say with this one as well that it's £9 million. That's £8.5 million worth of capital to do the works. But in addition to that as well, there is a £500,000 worth of revenue within that funding pot as well. And that will be used, and hopefully you'll see how this all links together. But basically it'll be used to deliver new events and support cultural projects and things within Bridgewater itself as well. So that will link with some of the other projects. So, for instance, the Town Hall Theatre, the the Arts Centre, and also the Engine Room as well. And like I say, we'll be looking to create a kind of events suite over the next few years as well. Like I say, linking in with the Celebration Mile and that creation of places and spaces as well. In terms of where we are with this one as well, so again, the business case was submitted earlier this year. It has been signed off by government, and we have actually drawn down the first tranche of funding for this as well. And we're currently in different kind of design and feasibility stages of each of those 3 projects as well. So in the main at REBA stage 4, so that's the detailed design, and we'll be looking to go out to procurement for all 3 of those schemes probably in the new year, we suspect, with a view to actually starting to deliver it probably sort of April, May time of next year as well. So, I think certainly, well, all of the projects will have a massive transformational effect, but certainly the in terms of the town centre, the Celebration Mile will be, very, very much transformational. I've just seen a hand up. I didn't catch who it was, but I'm happy to take a quick question if that's
I think it might be better to go through and take questions at the end and just go back to particular sections, if that's okay.
Yeah.
We could quite easily get distracted in the middle of.
Yeah. No,
Is that okay, Janet? Okay, I think we'll carry on with the presentation and then we'll go to particular questions, go back to the sections.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
So the next project within the town deal is the restoration of the docks, and the key driver behind that is to restore a historic part of the town, but also it's about creating a kind of a new leisure and tourism area within the town as well. Again, attracting people into the town for a different reason, diversifying the town centre and all those sorts of things. It's been a long project to get to the stage where we are now. We've done market analysis to be able to look at how kind of like the business plan or how the model will work for the docks going forward. And certainly all partners are reasonably comfortable in that sense. And what we think is it's going to be a split between kind of revenue. So obviously there used to be residents houseboats on the docks, and that they will be reintroduced, but it's going to be a kind of a split. I think it's something like 60-40 between residential and leisure activities as well. Also be looking to put in there as well kind of floating businesses and accommodation as well. So not in the sense of houseboats, but actually kind of floating lodges. And I think that's a really key element to this project as well, because what it's actually doing is, other than obviously very important that people are living there, it actually gives people another reason to go to the docks as well. So if you've got businesses, cafes or whatever it might be, or one of the things that's been kind of discussed as well is something around leisure, like a saddles and paddles things where you can hire bikes and kind of canoes and all those sorts of things as well. So it's like I said, it's been probably one of the most complex projects, and in terms of where we are as part of the town deal process, the business case is being finalised at the moment. We've got pretty much all of the costs ready to go. That will be going to the town deal board later on this month. It goes to executive on the 30th of November, I think it is. Is that correct? Leila, you're nodding as well. Thank you. And then going on from that point, it then goes off to government, and we would expect to get sign off probably February, March time next year as well. So that's the docks. The next three are the Arts Centre, the Town Hall Theatre, and the Engine Room. I'm grouping these together on the basis that they are packaged together in terms of a business case, and they are basically cultural venues within the town centre. And all three of them really are about kind of increasing the venue's kind of capacity and ability to be able to kind of put on new events and attract new people to come to whatever the events that they are taking on. In terms of the business case, so this one was submitted to government. I think it was October, September time. It has got over the first hurdle in terms of the business case sign off, and we're just waiting for that final financial sign off from government. The value of that project in its totality is £2.1 million, and that's broken down into 700,000 for the Arts Centre, like I said, for kind of rejuvenating that, building capacity into the venue. The Town Hall Theatre, the contribution is £900,000 for that one. And that again is around capacity. It's about improving the theatre, but it's also interestingly about creating employment space as well, or workspace and office space, and that's with a specific view to kind of social enterprises, or your kind of small to medium-sized enterprises as well. And that's something that the town council already do within the town hall, but they're looking to expand that offer as well, which again ultimately is around creating new businesses, creating footfall, and all those sorts of things as well. So bringing people back into the town centre. And then finally, the engine room, which I'm pretty sure you're all should be aware of as well. Again, that's about increasing capacity within the centre itself. So opening up the additional floors, creating kind of studios for music and sound and all those sorts of things. And again, just widening the offer for people as well. The next one is Bridgewater Step Up. And what this one is, it's about ultimately about creating workspace or enterprise space within the town centre itself. But this is slightly different to what you might be familiar with around of enterprise centres around the county, because there are probably 7 or so around other parts of the county. This one is purely focusing on, or certainly in the first instance, is going to be focusing on supporting individuals to be able to create a business, basically, so to kind of develop that entrepreneurial spirit within the town. And for me, it's about reaching out into those areas of kind of social deprivation, those individuals that haven't had an opportunity or hadn't thought about creating their own business, in fact, and then actually getting them on the kind of the first rungs of those ladder. So unfortunately, well, we had a building targeted for Bridgewater Step Up, which was an Angel Crescent. Unfortunately, I know we were talking about this earlier, we were gazumped, which is frustrating, but we are in the process of looking for alternative buildings at the moment. So there are 3 options on the table, and we'll be doing an options appraisal, which will go to the different partners. So obviously internally within Sedgemoor District Council, that will go to Somerset County Council as well, because they would be the authority that run the enterprise centres themselves. So they need to be comfortable with the offer as well. And then also, because of the change in the project itself, we've got to go back to government as well to kind of get that sign off. Now, we've got an in principle sign off from government. They said that as long as the outputs and the outcomes can be delivered, then actually they're pretty comfortable that the building is going to be used. But we have the business case has been signed off. We have drawn down the money, so we've got the money sat in our accounts now, and so like I said, it's just really a case of finding the right building to be able to kind of move this particular project forward. The next one is the town wardens and ambassadors. Now this this particular project supports the town centre through well, let me start at the beginning. So as part of the Bridgewater Town Deal, we did a significant amount of community engagement, and one of the things that came to the fore was concerns around antisocial behaviour in the town centre. So the town wardens and event ambassador is a kind of a way to address that. So we are in the process of recruiting 4 town wardens. In fact, we've recruited 3 already, and they will patrol the town centre, addressing incidents of antisocial behaviour. But actually, it's not just about kind of moving individuals on or giving them fixed penalty notice or anything like that. We're very keen, and they are already starting to do this, to actually engage with other organisations and departments within the district council as well, to ensure that actually, if there are individuals within the town centre which are causing antisocial behaviour, and these are all kind of hypothetical, but potentially around alcohol or excessive drinking, and actually those town wardens can put them in touch with support mechanisms, and the same with homeless individuals and things like that as well. The events ambassador element of it is linked to what I talked about earlier in terms of creating new places and spaces as well. And ultimately, we've got £500,000 worth of revenue to create these new events. So we need people in the town to be able to act as ambassadors. So when there are different things happening, they can act as showing people directions, welcoming people to the town, all those sorts of things as well. So it's a really exciting project, and like I say, we're already 3 people in post and just waiting for the final one to be able to have a full. I think that's all of the town deal projects. So
just one thing, Nathaniel, sorry, I think Bridgewater Carnival was in there as well.
Sorry, yeah, sorry, good one, yeah, absolutely. So Bridgewater Carnival, this one is focused around the site up on the A38. You may question, how does that link with the town centre? But I think it's actually intrinsic. It's a huge part, as we've just seen from the weekend that's just gone past, in terms of drawing people into the town centre, and really the investment into the carnival sheds is to provide sustainability to the carnival longer term. It's about creating a better environment for them to be able to create the carts, but also it's about a better working environment creates the opportunity for more volunteers, and therefore kind of growing the ranks of carnival as well, making it much more well equipped to be able to deliver going into the future as well. Again, this one's probably been one of the most challenging ones to say in a similar way to the docks. Certainly when we set out on this one, we weren't aware of the issues with the site itself. There is significant kind of drainage issues that we were not aware of, and all of these are kind of like added to the kind of the complications of it, and ultimately the kind of the cost of delivering it as well. But we believe we're close with the business case now, just kind of finalising the different numbers on and elements of that as well, and then we'll look to submit that later on this month as well, so that we're going to executive on the 30th of November as well. So yeah, so apologies for missing out the carnival.
That's okay. I'll stop you there, Nathaniel. Give you a chance to breathe, and I'll let people ask questions on just that section. I'll just go to Layla first because she might have a point of order.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. All I was going to say was I think probably Councillor Rodriguez and Councillor Crowe may want to declare an interest, because nothing was declared at the start of the meeting, but I think probably it's best that they did.
Right, okay.
And also that Councillor Betty's arrived.
Okay,
The other
thank you.
thing.
Welcome,
Thank
Councillor
you.
Betty. Nice to see you. Councillor Rodriguez and Councillor, well, let's go to Councillor Crowe first.
Yes, I only declare an interest. We do have well, my wife, since this was raised originally, now has a shop in Bridgewater.
Thank you. Councillor Rodriguez, do you need to declare? Is he here, actually?
I think he may have gone.
He might have dropped out.
I think he may have dropped out.
If he does come back in, if you notice, could you let me know? Maybe he's dropped out because of that, because he has an interest.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
Okay, thank you for letting me know, Layla. Thank you.
So I just say before you go, Leah, I presume I can speak on this topic, can I?
Yes, I think so. Yep. As long as you're not specific and it's a generalised thing.
Well, no, it's a general thing. It's not. I wouldn't to be specific to ourselves. It's just general points, Leah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go to
If I'm doing anything wrong, let me know.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Keane first. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Nathaniel, that was, it's a brilliant entire programme, and it's massive work behind the scenes. There are 3 points that I would be grateful for just brief clarity. Going back to almost to the beginning, Junction 23, with all this money that has now come into reality, do you know if Gravity is going to be make any form of contribution to that part of the work? Because when that site is developed, they will be extremely heavy users there. And the other one is on the step up, when that's the support for individuals. Has the citizens' advice been brought into some of those consultations? Because when people go there, very often their advisors will signpost very specifically what's needed. And the third one's the town wardens. I mean, that is wholly supportive. That's extremely needed. In some ways, the word warden could be misleading, because they're not punitive or disciplinary. They are like street pastors, and their whole role is to prevent individuals who may be in a difficult situation from falling into a catastrophic situation. And I believe that one of the street wardens that was one of our own officers, he does have experience in Weston-super-Mare on this very subject, and he is a most valuable addition to the team there. So, and I fully congratulate you, all of your staff, all the colleagues behind the scenes, for the hours and hours and the work they've put into all of this. The words just can't express. Congratulations to you all. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Keane.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. In reverse order, because I've written it down. In terms of the name town wardens, I mean, we have toyed with different names, and I do recognise what you're saying. It does sound a bit kind of the word is now disciplinary almost in the sense, but I'm certainly what we're feeding back to, or what we fed into the kind of the roles themselves, and that was made very clear in the job descriptions and all those sorts of things when it went out, is that this is absolutely a holistic approach to this. It isn't about simply handing out fixed penalty notices or moving people or anything like that. We want to actually get to the nub of what is ultimately what's causing that antisocial behaviour. And you're absolutely right, Janet, that our senior warden, who came from the Together team, is first class, fully understands the role, has been to the Town Deal board as well and run through it, and everyone, all the Town Deal board members were, you know, blown away by his approach to it all as well. So that's really great. On number 2, in terms of Step Up and citizens' advice, because we're not at the stage where we've actually got a building or anything yet, we haven't had those conversations, but absolutely it's a great shout in terms of citizens' advice, and we would be looking to create that network and making sure that it would it spreads out and partners up with a whole manner of different kind of organisations as well. I mean, one of the key things around Step Up is that, you know, not only will we be funding a new building to be able to kind of deliver this, we'll actually be putting money, revenue funding into the actual support as well. So we'll be funding, you know, that specialist support to be able to start people from, you know, the bottom rung of the ladder in terms of, you know, oh, I've always wanted to create a business but never actually, you know, had the kind of the courage or the wherewithal to be able to do it. So we will be supporting people on that entire journey and making sure that we're signposting to relevant individuals. And actually it's really important that we, and this will be covered later on in the report, that we are going to be creating additional workspace as well, so that grow on space for them. And this it's something I'll cover a little bit later on in the report. And then finally,
yes, now on that with Step Up, if there is a working party, I'm deeply interested in the work and wholly supportive. May I either be invited or at least given briefings on the discussions that are going underway?
Absolutely. I mean, you're more than welcome to come. I mean, essentially, we don't really have a kind of a program board or anything like that for this particular project. Like I said, because we haven't got the building, we haven't kind of got to that stage yet. But I'm more than happy to kind of give you updates as things progress. And yeah, you're more than welcome to come to kind of meetings when
Thank
we
you very
get
much.
up and running. That's absolutely no problem at all. And then your last, or your first point, but your last point for me around gravity contribution. The simple answer is I actually don't know. It's not my technical project. Whilst it comes under the Town Deal as a contribution, I'm not fully briefed in terms of how the kind of match funding package fits together. You know, and I'm pretty certain there's funding coming from the Levelling Up Fund. So Somerset County Council, as part of its A38 bid, to the Levelling Up Fund in phase 1, submitted a bid. So there is an element of funding coming from the Levelling Up Fund. I believe a proportion of it is coming through Section 106 and still funding, and then I think there's also an element which is underwritten by the District Council as well. As to the gravity contribution, I don't know is the honest answer, but I'm happy to take that away. I can take that away as an action and what the situation with that is, if that would help.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Crowe, is your hand still up? Is that from before?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. I will be talking in general terms, Leah. If I do it wrong, please let me know.
Okay.
First, just on the Bridgewater docks, I presume that are the houseboats coming back into the docks? And if so, is anything been done to stop the effluence being taken off these boats and tipped into the dock? Because that's what's happening, because we know people who live viewing the docks and they say this happens on a regular basis. And there's the Sea Scouts and all that sort of thing doing rollovers in the middle of the docks amongst the effluence that's floating about in there. So are they going to do anything about that?
So the answer is that I don't know the technical answer to it, but I can confirm that they will be putting in proper facilities when the houseboats do return. So yes, there is an anticipation that the former residents will return, but there will be proper facilities that are going in to be able to manage effluent and all those sorts of things associated with actually living on a dock. So yeah, so we're investing in the infrastructure that kind of sits within the dock. You know, I should have probably gone into a bit more detail in terms of the lock gates and those sorts of things as well. They will be improved as well, and actually investing in the land side of the docks as well to be able to you know, to be able to kind of deliver that as well. So yeah, so absolutely. In answer to your question, yes, it will be addressed as part of this project.
Right, thank you. Now, regarding the footfall in the town itself, and I'm now talking generally, it's all very nice. All these schemes are excellent, but it won't attract people into the town unless you're attracting the businesses into the town for them to go to. I hear nothing on the programme which is doing that. So to support the town centre, you've got to have places for people to go to buy their products. And if you haven't got that, they won't come in. You can spend millions doing it all up, and it all sounds excellent, I might say so. But it's not actually giving anything to the businesses to support them to be able to carry on business and to attract them into vacant units, and not with the greatest respect, opening charity shops everywhere. It's much good work they do, don't get me wrong, but we've got, have charity shops all over the place. And I hear the comments on a regular basis when people talk to me, they say, what's the point of coming into Bridgewater? It's all charity shops. I can't go and buy anything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, nothing wrong with a good charity shop, but I do see your point.
No, nothing wrong with it.
So I think we are addressing that, certainly through the town deal, in the sense of that. Obviously, I've talked about Step Up, which is around developing entrepreneurs, creating new businesses. So absolutely, that's something that we're looking to do. Also, as part of the Celebration Mile, looking to create new workspace as well, which will be very much cheaper. So it's an opportunity for those people coming through through Step Up, or other people that want to test their business model as well. So you've got Angel Place, you've got those colonnades under Angel Place on Angel Crescent. They will be turned into 9 individual work units as well. So that's giving businesses an opportunity. And then, like I said, we're delivering that business support as well through Step Up to be able to kind of support those individuals to create their businesses, and then, like I say, set them free into the high street to be able to deliver, to create their business and deliver services.
Yeah, but obviously the rent and rates to shops is horrendous. And, there's shops empty in Bridgewater, in a high street and places like that. If you go and ring them up and ask how much they want something like £20,000 to £30,000 a year of rent alone, let alone the rates. So no business, no independent business could support that. It's impossible for them to support it. So you won't attract the independent into the centre, or even nationals, I wouldn't have thought, into the centre when those sort of rates have been charged to them. They've got to wait 50,000 a year before they do anything, before they open the door.
Absolutely, I recognise. I mean, I can't speak for commercial operators in terms of what they rent, but like I said, with Bridgewater Step Up, like with the new workspace we're creating, also with the town hall and the workspace it's created there, it will be at a reduced rate to ensure that we are supporting businesses. Because that's the job of the public sector at the end of the day. Where there's market failure or there is the inability for people to be able to, afford to do things, that's when the public sector steps in to be able to do that. So yeah, we recognise it, and like I said, we're taking steps. I mean, what I can do is, I haven't got it to hand, unfortunately. I didn't think I'd need it, but I can show you kind of the business model or something like that for these small business spaces on Angel Crescent as well, and you'll see that the rents are very small compared to what you might be paying, just because we're keen to be able to develop those individuals to create their own businesses, and then they will grow. And yes, I recognise that it is expensive to rent, but they will be of hopefully a grounding and have the foundations to be able to expand their businesses to be able to to do that.
Thanks for one final point on the town wardens. There's another place I raised it about policing in Bridgewater, and particularly in the High Street and down 4th Street down there. There isn't any. So are the town wardens, when I was told why isn't there any, they're told there's problems down east over. So they didn't come up to the town centre. Are these wardens going to go all over the town to monitor what's going on? And also, are they going to monitor the traffic flow through the high street, particularly where they have cars roaring up and down and motorbikes roaring up and down at 60 miles an hour or plus in the high street? There's nobody at all doing anything about it. And I've raised it before and nobody does anything. One day somebody's going to get killed on that high street.
So to your first point in terms of where their kind of area will be, absolutely, it's the whole of the town deal intervention area. So that's not just, you know, elements of the town centre, it's all of the town centre stretching up the A38 if necessary as well. I mean, I think primarily they will be in the town centre, but it's not a distinction between, you know, Eastover or Forest Street or, you know, wherever. So you know, that absolutely, they have the remit to go where they are required. In terms of traffic, the honest answer is I see no reason why they couldn't do that. I don't think it's something that was on our radar when we, you know, created the Town Wardens project. I'm more than happy to kind of make that suggestion as well. I can speak to the senior Town Warden and say, you know, this was something that was raised at the community scrutiny. Is it something we can look at and just, you know, to kind of as a deterrent for people if they are screaming through the town centre?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll show you they are doing it on a regular basis.
I have no doubt.
I'm sorry I've gone on a bit, but thanks so much indeed for that, Lucas. It's much appreciated. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you. Okay, next question is from Councillor Betty.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry for being late. I was intained at work. My main worry about, we've got these wonderful projects that we are pushing ahead here, but with the shortfall in the budget that the county are saying they're going to have, is what are the likelihoods that these projects will actually come to fruition?
So, well, basically, we've entered into grant funding agreements with government. So if the new authority was to renege on it reputationally, it would look very bad. And also the funding is allocated for these specific projects. It's external funding, so you know, the new authority would not be able to take it and use it for something else, basically.
Oh, that's good to hear. Good.
Thank you. Councillor Wong.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Just going back to the Step Up Business Enterprise Centre. So, I think let's say if I am an entrepreneur, I'm looking to rent some office space. I know that there are like similar sort of centres across Somerset, and I know quite a number of different projects in Bristol as well, maybe some in Exeter. I mean, what would you say if you want to sell it to me? Why would I want to move my project to Bridgewater rather than Bristol city centre?
So this is different. So you're absolutely right. There are a whole bunch of enterprise centres of sorts all over the, you know, all over the southwest. This one differs in the sense of that it's, whilst there will be commercial space for businesses as well, actually it is, like I said, focusing on those that haven't had the kind of the ability to start their own businesses. We're looking at it, you know, from an economic development perspective or employment skills perspective. We're using this as a way to get people kind of back into work, you know, giving them an opportunity to start their own businesses. So it's not, you know, whilst we would expect, you know, those people that are kind of starting their own businesses to take up space, and it would be, you know, at a reduced rate in the first instance, but that, you know, ultimately it's not about technically attracting businesses to the area to take it up. It's really about creation of new businesses as well. That makes sense. So that's kind of the difference between them, I suppose. I should just add as well that, so we have done research and tested the market in terms of what space there is available, and yes, there is some business space within Bridgewater, but you know, some of it's not in a great state. So we believe, well, certainly the evidence would suggest that there absolutely is a market for this, and it's about us marketing to make sure that we are attracting those people. So like I said before, you know, going into those areas of social deprivation, giving those individuals an opportunity, putting the support mechanisms in place for them to be able to create their own businesses. And also, I think, you know, what I would like to see as well, and this is something that we will develop over time, is working with Bridgewater and Taunton College as well. So giving, you know, if there are students there that, you know, have got an idea, or they want to, you know, that they are entrepreneurial in themselves, then we can support those individuals in a practical environment as well.
Thank you. I think it'd be really important, the pricing of that, and make sure that it's at the right level for people to everybody to be able to access that opportunity, really, but not so low that it's then unsustainable for them to continue the business. That'll be really important. Yeah,
I agree.
Councillor Scott.
Yes, thanks, Chairman. Thanks, Nathaniel. That's a really good presentation, and thank you all for the team for doing all the work that you've done, because it's a great project that you've brought forward, and it's something that, you know, Sedgemoor, as it goes out, can be proud to have this as a legacy, I think. And I'm really pleased to hear that it will be continued. You know, the funding will be continued once we've long gone. But thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, I'm just the one who's on show, essentially. You know, it's the team and all the other people that behind the scenes that are making this happen. So I can't hold any credit for it. It's, you know, it's a group, a very large group of people that have made this possible. So yeah, I shall certainly pass on your thanks.
Well done, Natalia. Just a couple of things I'd like to add to that. Talking about the tidal barrier, I understand there is a public exhibition about the tidal barrier. There's a stakeholders meeting first. It's the 30th of November, and there's a public exhibition at St Mary's Church in Bridgewater, and that'll be from 2 till 7 p.m. on the 30th of November. So if anybody wants more information about the tidal barrier project, that should be available there. I've got the question about the step up, whether there is a working group of interested members. If there is going to be such a working group, it would be good to get that information out to all members so that everybody has an opportunity, if they're interested in to contribute to that. And then just a note from me about the town wardens. I'm not absolutely saying that this is the case for the town wardens in Bridgewater, but I have seen comments of town wardens in other towns of them being very over vigilant with issuing fixed penalty notices for dropped cigarettes, almost terrorising some elderly people, and I would hate to see that happen in Bridgewater or in any of our towns, to be honest. So I would just really like to emphasise, please, that it's a question of encouraging people, you know, if they're dropping cigarette butts on the ground, not issuing fixed penalty notices straight away, but encouraging the right behaviour and yeah, not being quite so vigilant.
Can I make a suggestion then? I can't remember when you said the next committee meeting was, but is it worth inviting the senior warden along perhaps? Then you can kind of get a feel. Like I said, he'll be leading the team. You know, he's come from the Together team as well. Just thought it might be quite nice. Like I said, the town deal board that kind of sits at the kind of the pointy end in terms of the strategy for the town deal, you know, were really impressed. I mean, was really impressed with them as well. So might be an opportunity for you all to kind of have a conversation with him as well, ask him some specific questions. He will be able to talk in much more detail than I can. So
that could be interesting. We'll consider that for the programme. Thank you. Good idea. Okay. Do you want to move on to the next section now?
Yes, sure. So in the same way that the town deal is external funding, and you know we've secured that already, and it will be a huge amount of transformational change. There are other funding opportunities that Sedgemoor as a district council have been working on over the past, I don't know, now probably 12-18 months or so, like that. And the main one has been the Levelling Up Fund. Again, I'm pretty sure you probably should all be aware of it. Overarching fund across the country is over £4 billion worth of investment, broken into a couple of phases. And I alluded to that Somerset County Council made a submission in phase 1 of the Levelling Up Fund and was successful. In the same way, so Sedgemoor themselves were working on funding submissions that were sent off to government just before, over the summer. The Levelling Up Fund works different to the town deal in the sense that it's a constituency-based bidding process. So for Sedgemoor, we're lucky in the sense that we've got 2 constituencies that kind of covers Sedgemoor. Obviously, the Wells constituency with MP James Heapy, and then the Bridgewater and West Somerset constituency, which is with Ian Liddell-Granger. So we worked in partnership with our associated district council. So for the Wells constituency bid with Mendip, and then for the Bridgewater and West Somerset, we worked with Somerset West and Taunton. Both of these bids, you know, from a town centre perspective, I think are really critical. They are both £20 million bids, so that's potential for £40 million worth of investment coming into Sedgemoor, into the towns. You know, and again, some of the principles are very similar to the town deal, but it's about, you know, kind of town centre regeneration, diversification of the town centres, you know, providing new offers for them, and all those sorts of things as well. So really important submissions, and I'll go into a little bit more detail. So the Wells constituency bid, like I said, was working with Mendip District Council. And it is focused, well, from a Sedgemoor perspective, focused on two towns or two conurbations. The first one being Highbridge, and then the other one being Cheddar. And then also from Mendip's perspective, the focus area is Shepton Mallet. So for Highbridge and Shepton Mallet, the key point, I think, or the key element of what we're trying to do is it's focusing on areas of social deprivation, but making improvement to the kind of public realms and also accessibility to those kind of town centres as well. So for Highbridge, the funding and the projects are kind of focused around Market Street and Bank Street, like I say, improving public realm, also increasing kind of accessibility to the town itself. So with cycle routes, linking Highbridge via kind of Apex Park and Burnham-on-Sea, also investment into community centre, and then finally improvements to the railway station as well. What we're trying to do, like I say, alongside those public realm improvements, is actually link the area together. So with the train station, we'll be creating we will be, as long as the funding's successful, we will be creating kind of like a jump off point. So like travel hubs where you've got that kind of multimodal transport. So you can come in by train, or you can cycle, or you can come in by bus, and then they're jumping off points to other areas of the district or other towns as well. The investment into Cheddar is similar in the sense of that it's addressing public realm improvements, but this is kind of focused more around the Cheddar Gorge and the kind of the tourism offer. I think ultimately, as you will be aware, COVID had a massive impact on tourism, but I think tourism in and around Cheddar has probably suffered as well prior to COVID. So by improving the area, accessibility, all those sorts of things, we're looking to be able to draw people back into Cheddar Gorge, and by proxy that obviously benefits the town centre, the businesses, and so on and so forth as well. Those are kind of the kind of key elements to the Wales constituency levelling up fund bid. Like I said, it's a £20 million submission, went in over this summer. We were advised by government that it was going to be announced in the autumn statement. Having had conversations internally with government, and because of the changes, I suppose, in government recently and other things, we now believe that that's going to be pushed back. We're certainly hopeful that it'll be before the end of the year, but again, we'll just continue to kind of to keep going in terms of asking those questions. So that's the Wales constituency bid. Like I said, just a bit of a whistle stop tour through that. The the Bridgewater and West Somerset bid is focused around the former Bridgewater Hospital in the town centre. So that's the building on Salmon Parade. A huge building, architecturally a beautiful building, certainly the frontage of it as well, grade 2 listed, has been in deterioration for I forget how many years now, but many years, which has really kind of come to a head recently with COVID and people kind of being, I suppose, not having so many things to do, and using that building as a place to frequent and to vandalise and all those sorts of things. So it really has kind of got into a bit of a sorry state. It's always been a building that has lacked a purpose, but what we've done is ultimately created a partnership, taking advantage of the building and it's kind of how it is at the moment, and we are looking to create a academy for health and social care in Somerset. So not only does this particular project address town centre regeneration, which is one of the fundamental points of the Levelling Up Fund bid, it actually ultimately addresses a huge kind of health and well-being perspective, and will support the wider health and social care sector, which at the moment is woefully under-resourced. So there are huge amounts of benefits kind of woven into this project, and we believe that this is will tick a lot of boxes in government as well. And whilst you can never be 100% confident, is pretty confident, certainly based on what's been coming out of government in the past year in terms of the problems with the social care sector, with the health sector off the back of COVID and all those sorts of things. What we're doing is creating an opportunity to really affect that in a positive way, recruiting people back into the sector, but also ensuring that there is reduced churn in that sector as well. And by doing that, like I said, it's a hook for government to say that we want to have investment in our town centre to address what is a bit of an eyesore at the moment as well. So again, in the same way that the Wales constituency bid was submitted over summer, this one was as well. And Again, we're just waiting to hear back from government at the moment in terms of a success, all being well, a successful bid. Or I should say with this one as well. So we haven't that particular bid has not been done in isolation. Sedgemoor District Council, have no problem with town centre regeneration projects. We've done many of those. I mean, if you look at the success of Northgate as well, not a problem doing that. But actually, this, we recognise that this actually does kind of come a little bit outside of our wheelhouse as well in terms of health and social care. So we've created a really strong partnership working with Public Health Somerset, the NHS Trust in Somerset as well, and the integrated care system. So created a really strong partnership, across health and social care as well, understanding what the needs of the sector is, and ultimately making strong government as well. So I'll pause at that point because that's probably a good place to stop, just in terms of it's another programme of support for town centres.
Thank you. Just quickly, I'm not sure whether I caught, you might have said this and I missed it, but do both of these projects have the support of the MPs, or are they not?
Not Wells.
So no is the answer.
Wells
to that.
doesn't.
No, Wells doesn't. And we worked hard to ensure that the MP was on the journey. And I've got to be careful with what I say, but we worked hard to make sure that the MP was on the journey with us. And we certainly made adjustments to the submission as well, in light of the things that were put forward. For whatever reason, we got to the point where we were about to submit, and yes, the MP withdrew support for the bid. However, having done some additional kind of digging with government and asking the implications of this with government, actually the support of the MP is not as critical as you might think it is. So when you make a submission to government, the different sections are broken down into kind of percentages. So you've got a percentage allocation for if you tick this box, and a percentage allocation for if you tick that particular box, and so on and so forth. So the support of the MP actually only counts for 5% of your submission. So if bids are all very close, and clearly it's going to be a competitive process, but actually we feel that the Wells constituency bid is very strong anyway, and we're certainly of the view that 5% is not probably the end of the world in terms of the submission of that bid. So it was very disappointing that it didn't, that the MP did not support it in the end, especially when we worked very hard to kind of make it, fit as best we could. And I won't say any more because I don't want to, it's one of those things, unfortunately. What I can say about the Bridgewater and West Somerset one is that Ian Liddell Granger was what absolutely got it, 100% behind it, and it was a complete opposite of the Wells constituency bid in the end.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Sorry for the tricky question, but
no, it's fine. Like I said, yeah, it's not for me to kind of go into the real details, but yeah, it didn't work as we had anticipated.
Okay, thank you. I'll hand over to Councillor Phil Harvey. He's got a question for you.
Thank you, Hilary. I rather gather that our MP, that is our Wells MP, wanted some things included in the bid that actually were specifically excluded by the criteria, but you can't actually expect MPs to read criteria. I had two questions really. One was whether we'd had any indication from government that with restrictions in public spending, whether these levelling up fund bids are likely to remain in the autumn statement. In other words, I would guess that they probably are, because for all his whatever we might think of Michael Gove, now that he is back in the Department of Levelling Up, this was one of his pet projects. So hopefully that will be a good factor in our favour. So question to Nathaniel is, do we have any indication of whether they're going to survive? And the second one was, one of the conditions of these Levelling Up fund bids was the restriction of time in which the projects suggested where they had to be started from or even completed. One of the factors in deciding what went into the bid was that there was this time limit on the spending, and as we're getting further and further into that time, I wonder whether there's any indication as to whether the time limit on spending is actually going to be extended to take account of the fact that we're now something like 6 months later than we thought we were going to be.
Right. So I clearly don't know the inner workings of government, unfortunately, but what I am advised of at the moment is that the Levelling Up Fund will continue. My own personal opinion is that it would be a faux pas from government's perspective, in the sense that, as I'm sure you'll all be aware, they will have invested, I don't have the exact figure, but millions of pounds into actually the development of the bid. So one of the elements of the Levelling Up Fund was that local authorities, in order to be able to produce what is exceptionally complex and expensive funding submissions, provided capacity funding to local authorities. So like I said, that millions of pounds will have been invested in local authorities to be able to produce the bids, to be able to go into the Levelling Up Fund. From my perspective, that would be a faux pas on their part to do that. So certainly the indication that I've had in my conversations is that it will happen. I can't say what's going to happen in the future. Obviously, there are significant financial stresses on the economy. So I can't say for 100%, but certainly what I've been told at the moment is that it will progress. The second point in terms of deliverability, absolutely, you're right, Phil, that the timescales, well, they were tight anyway. No indication on whether they would be extended, but what I can say is that for other funds that I've worked on in the past, and Sedgemoor itself was lucky enough to draw down 265,000 as part of the Community Renewal Fund, because of the fact that government was slow at confirming that the bids were successful. Then they did actually extend the end date at the end of the project, so you had an extra 6 to 9 months to be able to deliver. Now again, I can't say that will happen with the Levelling Up Fund, but history suggests that they would be pragmatic and flexible in their approach, on the basis that they're not coming back to us as quick as we would have liked them to.
Thank you.
Hopefully that helps. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry, I don't see any other hands up, so I think with that we can probably progress on to the next bit.
Okay. So the next element of the report was around footfall comparisons and data on empty shops. Now, I do have some footfall data, which I will put up on the screen. Unfortunately, I don't have any empty shop data, on the basis that the individual that used to produce that on our behalf has left the organisation. So there is a little bit of a gap on that. So I apologise for not being able to bring it. But if you just bear with me, I will share my screen. Run through. Well, I've got lots of stuff open, so I just want to share. Can you see that? Just let me know.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Excellent. So what I've done is, so as you'll all be aware, we collect footfall data for 3 of the kind of the major conurbations in Sedgemoor, and we've been doing that, as you can see from this graph, since February 21, and so that it was off the back of COVID in the first instance, and we utilised, and it's something I'll cover in a bit more detail later on, but we utilised some of the government funding that came from COVID to mitigate against the impact. And so we installed footfall counters in Bridgewater, in Burnham, and in Cheddar as well. And what you can see here is that I think ultimately it's been a peak, having come out of COVID here. So what certainly the indication of what we think it is around many pubs and clubs opened up, which is why there is a kind of a peak around this bit. But then what we've had is kind of a tapering off of that as we run through it, and I suspect These bits, you know, kind of around here where it has started to dip is certainly obviously, you know, around winter and the terrible weather, but also the kind of the subsequent dipping here is we believe, and we don't have anything to be able to kind of corroborate that at this stage, but it's certainly something we're looking at, is about people also being able to go abroad and further afield as well, so they're able to kind of, you know, spread their wings, and also again we're going to be doing some cross data sourcing as well. Also, we think that probably around this area here, where it's certainly started to drop off quite significantly, is around the beginning of the kind of cost of living crisis as well, and whether that's a particular impact of people coming into the town centres and spending money as well. So, you know, this is, and I think what you'll see as well is actually there's a bit of a pattern across the towns as well. If I just skip on, just this one on. So, again, you can see here that there's a similar pattern here where we think that people are kind of coming out of lockdown, that ability and that little bit more freedom to be able to come out. And then, I have to be honest, there was a little bit of an anomaly there. We're not quite sure what that was for, whether it's sort of around half term or something like that. But again, you see it start to kind of dip off. And certainly with Burnham as well as a kind of like that tourism-y destination. I think, you know, as the world opened up after COVID, then you know, people started to kind of travel abroad again as well. You know, obviously a bit of an increase as you get to spring, but again, it's you know, it stayed reasonably level, but it is starting to dip off again. We wonder if that's something to do with the kind of cost of living crisis as well. And again, if I just go on to Cheddar as well, you will notice there's a big dip here. That's unfortunately one of the counters was broken, which has been rectified now, but we think that that's probably that's really the reason why there was a massive dip in November. But again, you can see the pattern here as well, where you've got sort of people, you know, coming out of lockdown around this sort of time. Certainly, you've got the summer period here where it's a peak, and I suspect that rather than having that dip there, it would kind of just taper along there as well. And again, you can see over the winter months it's dropping, but then ultimately picking up as we get to kind of the summer months again as well. But you know, I think clearly there's a link here with the Levelling Up Fund submission as well, in terms of that. You know, if we want to get back to these significant figures for kind of Cheddar and ensuring that there are people there, you know, during the summer months and stuff like that, we need to be making that investment to you know, into kind of public realm and the tourism industry in Cheddar to make sure it's you know, back to where it should be. So that just kind of gives you a bit of an indication. Let me just so that gives you a bit of an indication in terms of footfall counters. And the kind of levels that we can see at the moment in those three conurbations. Happy to get some thoughts and views in terms of those, and whether, you know, there are other opinions as to, you know, why those figures are like they are at the moment. So yeah, please do.
Thanks, Nathaniel. I'll hand over to Councillor Harvey. He's got a question.
Just one comment and one question. The slight increase at the end of October in Burnham could well be due to the fact that we have a food festival, which brings in about 5,000 people, and as the difference is about 20,000, that will have certainly made one of the factors. I'm just going to ask Nathaniel, do we have similar figures from around from other places? Because it looks as if in general that, you know, we're running at 35% less than a year or so ago. Do we know if that's the same in other places where this company does their footfall monitoring?
That's a good question. We don't, but that is something that we should be doing, actually, I think. You know, because it would be, I'm aware, and I'm not saying that they use the same companies, but certainly other districts, they also have footfall counters. So it would be interesting to be able to cross-reference that data and actually see if there are, you know, wider kind of patterns across all of you know, Somerset, but, you know, probably wider afield as well. So yeah, we haven't, but that's something we should definitely be looking at, I think. It's a good, yeah, very good idea.
Councillor Scott.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's quite interesting. I mean, it does show that you know, the footfall is going back up, which is encouraging after all we've been through. With regard to Cheddar, presumably this doesn't take into account any of the ANOB footfall, because I know they undertook a similar exercise, you know, on the sort of importance of the hills, and took monitoring during the year, which seemed to be quite significant. And there's a big drive in tourism to have sustainable tourism, you know, with people walking and cycling. So, you know, there may be a bit of a step change in somewhere like Cheddar, where you might get more visitors doing other activities.
So just so you're aware, so that the footfall that we have, it is town centre based, so it wouldn't be able to, it wouldn't pick up, you know, into the kind of the countryside and the rural areas. But I absolutely agree with you 100%, and that kind of sits at the core of what we're trying to do with the Wales Levelling Up Fund bid. So, you know, take advantage of the natural capital that exists in terms of Cheddar Gorge, you know, the levels and the Mendip Hills, you know, creating those connections. So, you know, what we're trying to create is a I suppose like an area for kind of sustainable green tourism, where you're taking advantage of the natural capital. You know, you're cycling, you're walking, you're, you know, climbing hills and, you know, Cheddar Gorge, or, you know, whatever it is you're doing, but kind of capitalizing on that and making sure that we're protecting it for the future as well.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Should we go on to the next section?
Sure. You're all going to get sick of me soon. So the next section was around the Welcome Back Fund. So that was a fund that was released by government as a way to mitigate against COVID, and it was £284,000 in the end. They had a couple of different tranches of funding that we were able to invest, and like I said, it was a mitigation fund against the impact of COVID. In the first instance, it was about protecting people, so providing things like stations for hand sanitizers, or, you know, those stickers that were on the floor as well, where it said, you know, stand I can't remember, 5 meters away, or however much it was now, you know, all those sorts of things. So the initial thing was around protection and prevention, all those sorts of things. But what we did, you know, subsequent to that, you know, as we were kind of starting to come out the other side of COVID, it's like, well, what can we do to kind of capitalize on the funding, and to ensure that you know, we can draw people back into the town centres, also in not just town centres as well, but also into kind of coastal areas as well, because, you know, obviously tourism was impacted significantly as well. So we successfully spent all the money, is what I can tell you first of all. Also, just so you're aware as well, that the funding itself was on the basis that you spent it and then you had to claim it back from government. Now, you know, for district council, obviously, that, you know, that isn't an issue in terms of cash flow problems, but the process to actually claim the funding back was exceptionally complex. And I tilt my hat to the officer, Kinga Grabacek, who was leading on this, because it was an absolute mammoth task to be able to create all the evidence and everything to go into government to be able to draw down that £284,000 worth of funding. You know, she absolutely knocked it out of the park, and we drew down all of the funding that we spent as well. So kudos to that. Kudos to Kinga in terms of that. In terms of the funding itself, so we had circa 25 projects that we invested in. I'm not going to go through them all by any means, but just to give you a bit of a flavour of them. So I talked about the installation of footfall counters. And the data we've been collecting, you know, we have found that useful. You know, like I say, we're able to pick up peaks and troughs, and, you know, we have been a busy team, and I think we need to take that data and like I say, cross-reference it and use it to be able to kind of predict future and actually test interventions as well. But certainly we've found it useful to date. Like I said, we used it for deploying sanitizing stations, like I said, stickers on the floor, all those sorts of things. Also PR campaign as well. Like, hopefully you can cast your mind back. It seems like a long time ago now, but we had the brand Shop Safe, Shop Sedgemoor. So that was on the back of buses, in bus shelters, all those sorts of things. Just saying, you know, look, don't forget your town centre. You know, great, you know, diversity in terms of the offer and shops and all those sorts of things. Shop safe, but, you know, don't use the internet all the time. Come back into the town centre, and, you know, because you're benefiting your town centre as well. Other things that were invested, so benches in parks, bringing people back into the open spaces as well during COVID, you know, getting them out and about. Also, we installed benches and was not play equipment, but other things. So down down on the coast as well, basically with a view to being able to attract people back to kind of the seaside and those sorts of things. Also, we had an events program which was particularly successful. So again, you have to cast your minds back because it was quite a while ago now, but had an outdoor cinema which was exceptionally successful. It was called a buskathon, which took place in a number of different towns. There was kind of cycling, treasure hunts, and all sorts of things. Like I said, just really getting people back out into the outside world and making sure they're kind of drawn back into town centres and those sorts of things to benefit the businesses that exist there. Then finally, the last one that the last few that I'm just going to cover on is around that kind of long-term strategic view as well. So what you'll recognise from the projects I've run through today, they were about immediacy and they were addressing a specific problem at a point in time. When the later tranches of funding came out, government said that actually you can be a bit more strategic and you can create strategic documents and kind of plans for the future as well, which we felt was really important. And actually what we did, we merged that with our Levelling Up Fund submission as well. So we commissioned with Welcome Back funding a Cheddar Gorge regeneration strategy, which is going to full council quite soon. I can't remember exactly when it is, but that will be going to our full council, and also a hybrid regeneration strategy as well. So they are strategies that form the core element of our Levelling Up Fund bid, because when you're making a bid to government, you have to have the kind of strategic context, you have to show the research and all the information that's gone into the bid to say why you need it. And those documents kind of form the backbone of elements of that submission as well. So they were commissioned, great documents again, and we can certainly kind of we can roll those out very soon as well. And then the final document, which I think is particularly important, is a Bridgewater marketing strategy document as well. We used Welcome Back funding again for that as well. And basically what we commissioned the organisation to do was to say, we've got all this investment coming into Bridgewater. So, we've got the town fund, we've got like all of these projects investing millions of pounds. We've got, money for a suite of new events and, festivals and all those sorts of things coming up. How can we maximise the benefit of that investment? And what do we need to do to say, come to Bridgewater, we are open for business. It's got new public realm. There is new cultural venues, well, not new, but refurbished cultural venues. The docks, all those sorts of things. So we've created this Bridgewater marketing strategy, which is adopted by the Bridgewater Town Deal Board. That has actually formed the basis of a commission that is currently live from a tender perspective. And we are going to be procuring a PR and comms organisation to be able to deliver on not all of the elements of the marketing strategy, because we couldn't afford to do that, but we've got sort of just over £20,000 for this organisation, whoever it might be, to be able to kind of deliver on this marketing strategy, supporting the town deal and all those sorts of things to be able to kind of go forward as well. So those are the kind of the some of the key projects I think that came from the Welcome Back Fund, which ultimately have delivered a success for the different towns across Sedgemoor as well. So happy to take any questions on that as well.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey?
Just a comment really. Nice to hear all that work going on, Nathaniel. I think a Bridgewater marketing strategy is something which is very, very important and much needed. I mean, living as I do in Burnham, halfway between Bridgewater and Weston, I never think of going to Bridgewater to shop. If I'm going to go somewhere else apart from Burnham, I automatically think of Weston. And that's 20,000 population in Burnham and Highbridge, and I think I'm not alone in that. So if you need to reach out to us in the areas going north, and of course going south. If you're living in North Petherton, why go to Bridgewater rather than Taunton?
Absolutely, and I completely agree with you. And the marketing strategy is kind of broken down into kind of three key elements. So the first element is around residents of Bridgewater and saying, look, Bridgewater is opened up again. Look at all this great stuff. We want to attract residents of Bridgewater and the surrounding area back into Bridgewater, into the town centre. In addition to that, with the new kind of leisure offerings and things like that. So, for instance, the docks or Northgate or other things like that. Actually, we want to be able to attract visitors to the town as well. So it's that kind of tourism element as which I think is really critical. So that's another kind of element that will be that we'll be looking to kind of draw out, and that the company that will, whoever they might be, will be working on. And the final element of it is around actually inward investment in businesses. So we can say, look, we've got a thriving town. We've already got amazing businesses here. We've got workspace. We've got key projects. You've got the biggest infrastructure project in the world. Well, I think it is anyway with HPC. You've got the likes of Gravity. When that comes online, you've got a whole wealth of things. So we want to use that marketing strategy and the investment of the town deal to draw people and businesses into Bridgwater.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Councillor Crowe.
Yes, it's just a comment, really. I think Councillor Harvey has just confirmed what I was saying earlier. If you don't attract the shops to come into these towns, Burnham, Cheddar, Bridgwater, you won't get people in. They won't come in to shop in Bridgwater or Burnham or Cheddar or any of these Wells, all these towns, unless there's something there to bring them in to shop in. It's all right spending all this money, and I think a lot of the schemes are wonderful. But unless you attract the shops, it's a waste of time, because people won't come in to shop in Bridgwater, Burnham, or Cheddar, or places like that, unless you've got the shops for them to come to. And none of these towns are encouraging. You're not encouraging any of these towns to bring them in, because people will go to Taunton and to Weston and to Bristol, rather than come to here or to Burnham or to Cheddar. So I do applaud what you're doing, but you're missing the point of the whole project, is to get shops in the town centres open. Sorry to go on about it, but we're spending all this money doing all these wonderful things, but it still doesn't bring people into the town to shop. Sorry about that, Nathan, but that's the truth. That's the truth, I'm afraid to say. Thank you.
I think,
sorry, I've had another moan, but it's the truth.
It's all good. It's all good. I do think it's about diversification of the town centre, though, and actually town centres are changing what it is they do nowadays. So, absolutely shopping is a big part of it.
Yes, but this is what it's all about. It's supposed to be.
The likes of Northgate, the creation of the new cinema, whatever the kind of the you've got whatever the restaurants are going to be as well. You've got that investment going down into Angel Crescent as well, creation of new places for people to to set up those businesses as well. So it's not a quick process. I fully understand that, but we are putting the foundations in place to be able to capitalise on it. And you've got to start somewhere at the end of the day. It can't just happen overnight. So we're working hard to make it a reality.
No, I appreciate what you're doing, but I'm sorry. One is still missing. People want a shopping experience. That's what they want to go into a town centre for a shopping experience. And if they haven't got the shopping experience, they won't come in. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Crowe. Thank you.
sorry, Councillor Bruce. I'm going on about it, but it's important.
I'm going to make some comments afterwards. Maybe that I'm quite on board with what you're saying. Councillor Wong's got something he'd like to add as well.
I'm going to defend Nathan on the matter. If you look at the most successful sort of business centre in the UK, you'll be looking at like Canary Wharf. You'll be looking at like maybe the Wapping Wharf development in Bristol city centre. If you look at those development, they are more like a mixed-use development. So there are element of enterprise, element of retail, element of like restaurant and services. The truth is, if you just want a shopping experiences, we're gonna have a hard time beating Amazon on price. We're gonna have a hard time beating maybe John Lewis for services. So we need a unique selling point, something that is different, something that people would take Bridgwater, for example, over maybe Bristol. And I think it's not just about shopping. I think the world has moved on, and we need to provide more services. We need to diversify our portfolio, and I'll defend Nathan on the matter.
Thank you. I think, gosh, it's a really, really complicated and complex area to address. Obviously, I think there's been a lot of good work going on in Sedgemoor to try to work and attack it from different perspectives and different ways. My concern is probably a little bit, looking at what Councillor Crow's, I think from his perspective, there doesn't seem to be a lot going on in terms of the empty shops that we do have. Why are they? I mean, okay, we're providing new workspaces, more affordable, better, easier to maintain, better located or whatever, but we still have those empty shops in town centres. And yes, what Councillor Wong is saying is absolutely spot on, that we need to diversify. There's going to be mixed use. It's changing. We need to be innovative in the way that we use our town centres. It's going to be recreation. It's going to be an experience. It's going to include shopping as well. It's going to be residential with the change of use of properties. There's lots of things going on. But we still are going to have some properties that are empty, and we don't really, from what I've heard, we haven't really understood why they're empty. What are the barriers to getting those properties back into use, and how can they be used? And things like not knowing how many empty, I'm not saying that obviously there's that person's missing, but knowing the data, monitoring and finding out what the barriers are and what we can do about it, because unless we have the evidence, I think we can't actually take steps to lobby. If it's problems on planning, if it's problems with rates, if it's things that the government can do rather than us as a local authority, that's the area that I feel that is we still need to do more on. But I have to say, I think the projects that are ongoing at the moment are amazing, and it's encouraging that those will then be handed over presumably to the new unitary. And so that work has already started, and that focus hopefully won't be lost when we move from Sedgemoor and move to the new unitary. And that focus will continue from the new unitary. I really hope it does, and that they work really closely with the town centres, the town councils, to continue the work that's already started.
I mean, I can assure you that I'm not intending to go anywhere. So you know, for me, it's a key part of what I'll be doing going forward, all being well. You know, in the sense that we've made a multi-year commitment. You know, these projects, well, certainly ones in Bridgewater, are over until 2026. So you know, absolutely, and we've, like I said, we've signed up to grant funding agreements and all those sorts of things. So the money can't be diverted anywhere else. At the end of the day, it will deliver these projects. And to your point, I do know what you're saying about empty shops, but I don't think it's something that's just in Bridgewater or Burnham or Highbridge or Cheddar or anything like that. This is symptomatic across the whole country. I mean, I know that people have been referencing Taunton, but have you been to Taunton recently? You know, it's not faring well, if I'm honest. It lost Debenhams. There are umpteen shops that are closed in multiple different places across the town. So, you know, I mean, yeah, and Yeovil isn't faring much better either. I was in Yeovil at the weekend. You know, so it isn't just something in Bridgewater. And I think, you know, if there are vacant shops, you know, and I can't say that I've got the answer to it at all, but I think part of it is probably in terms of the landlords that own those shops, and whether it be around rents and the, you know, stuff attached with the cost of living crisis and all those sorts of things. You know, the economy. I think it's just ultimately a bit of a perfect storm, which is limiting people's confidence to be able to either run a business or actually sustain a business over the, you know, the medium to longer term as well. So it's a real mix, but I do strongly believe that, you know, it's about diversifying the town centre and giving people the options, because what one thing will do will attract others and support others. So, you know, I've talked about Northgate already, but actually, you know, if there's, you know, Northgate Cinema has become a reason for people to come into the town. Now, people aren't just going to stay there. You know, they're going to go to other places in the town as well. And what we need to be doing is creating gateways into the town so that people can come out of Northgate, so they could look down Angel Crescent and say, well, that looks really good. I've not been down there before. And that takes them down into Clare Street, onto 4th Street, and so on and so forth. So what we're doing is we're place shaping almost, if that makes sense. But like I said, it can't all be done in one go. You know, the celebration mile itself was when I mean, people on this in this virtual meeting room would have been here far longer than me will remember the Bridgewater Vision. I think it was like 2008, 2009, and that was when the celebration mile was born. And actually, we're only now at the point where we're starting to deliver significant parts of it. So it isn't a quick process, unfortunately.
No.
I wish it wasn't. I wish I could do it all in one go.
Okay, thank you very much, Nathaniel. Was there other bits on your?
Yeah. So there, I got quite a list of things to look at. What I will say, so it talks about encouraging independent traders into the town centre, pop-up shops, micro workspaces, and affordable business premises. So I've kind of covered that, I think, as long as everyone's happy in terms of, you know, the Bridgewater Step Up as a place to kind of create new businesses. I've talked about Angel Crescent as well, in the sense of creating new, you know, micro workspaces, places that businesses can, you know, really, you know, trial their business model ultimately, and those sorts of things. So unless there are any specific questions around that, I was going to move on, because like I said, I don't want to repeat myself.
That's fine. I think you've covered those previously. Yeah.
And then the final 2 points, obviously, if there are any questions at the end, then happy to kind of answer any as well. The first one was around the town centre task force. So that was something that was created off the back of COVID, and had multiple partners, with the district council, you know, at the lead, and it was really good. I have to be honest. Kinga in my team was kind of leading on it, and had you know, local chambers involved, had the town teams involved, and a whole lot of people, and it was great getting people talking together. The question that was raised was around a shared vision and a mission statement, and there wasn't a shared vision and a mission statement. And unfortunately, if I'm honest, the town centre task, I can't say it, town centre task force has kind of come to an end, where partners have just kind of, they've come out of COVID, and things have, you know, priorities have changed, and you know, in those particular partners that were involved in the town centre task force have kind of moved on to other things. So in its rawest form of what it was at COVID, it's not, it doesn't function like that. Now, that's not to say that there isn't a, you know, there is the High Street Task Force, which is funded by government, which is working in Burnham at the moment. So I did touch on it briefly, but we are working with government and with various different individuals and organisations within Burnham to kind of support the High Street there. And like I said earlier on, there is also an allocation which came from the previous year's council budget of £50,000. Now, we are waiting for the outcomes of the High Street Task Force to be able to really understand what it is, or where that will be invested, because in reality, it's great to have that money, but £50,000 will not get you too far. So we need to box clever in terms of what we're going to be investing in. So that's where we are in terms of the town centre task force. Like I said, it didn't continue as you anticipated, but it has diversified to focus on Burnham. And then the final point within, in terms of the questions, was around submissions made to other funding schemes and other projects as well. So since we last spoke, it's been all encompassing in terms of the delivery of the town deal and those kind of the levelling up fund projects as well. The only other fund that we've been involved in is the Shared Prosperity Fund. So I don't know whether people are aware of that as a fund. It's meant to replace European money, and how it works is that government have provided an allocation for Somerset as a whole, and they've done the same for all the other counties across the country as well. Somerset's allocation, and I forget the exact amount now, but it's somewhere in the region of just over £7 million over 3 years. Now, compared to European funding, I mean, I know it's a lot of money, but it is not a huge amount of money to cover a county. So there are significant shortfalls in terms of the Shared Prosperity Fund and its ability to be able to replace European funding. Sedgemoor itself is not in control of its own destiny in terms of the Shared Prosperity Fund either. So government decided that because we were moving into a unitary authority, that it would be Somerset County Council that would be the lead authority for the Shared Prosperity Fund. So we, as not just Sedgemoor, but the other districts, have worked in partnership with Somerset County Council to create an investment plan. But in reality, it is the Somerset County Council who is the lead authority for this. the investment plan was submitted to government earlier on this year, and we're waiting, and we're expecting any day now confirmation that that investment plan has been approved and signed off, and then we start to draw down the first year's tranche of funding for the Shared Prosperity Fund. So that is the only funding that we are have been working on in reality since we last met.
Okay, thank you. I've got one particular point really. The town centre task force, you said, not really functioning as it was. Is that something that's just going to disappear then? Because I think there's a lot of benefit to be had from people from the various town centres working together and sharing knowledge. Like you say, Bridgewater is not alone in having problems, the same problems that they have in Yeovil and Taunton, and so actually sharing best practice and finding out what's causing this, using national information and data. I think working in partnership is really beneficial. So it's a shame to see that disappear.
I agree, and like I said, it really was down to kind of a dwindling kind of membership. I think people's priorities have probably changed. In COVID, it was very much focused on, I suppose, survival and support and those sorts of things, and support in numbers. And I'm not saying that the economy and town centres or anything is in a particularly strong position at this point in time, but actually, people have come out the other side of COVID and are looking at other problems, I suppose, to a certain extent. Now, maybe it is something we can do in terms of rectifying it, but I certainly, the feedback I was getting was that that partners were just not engaged as they were, and whether COVID was the kind of the catalyst for that, I suspect it probably was at the time.
Okay.
It's disappointing, like I said.
Yeah.
But, it's something we can explore. Like I said, certainly the feedback I've had is that they were just kind of focusing on other. Fortunately,
I'm feeling just that even just a more specific work group made up of various members with more kind of specific tasks to feature on and might be useful. Maybe something to look into.
I mean, maybe again, and I would need to speak internally with the team as well in terms of resources to be able to do that. But whether members could be, the kind of the call to arms, I suppose, maybe from the town centres as well. If we can, if we can have out some resources to be able to kind of try and support that model going forward again. Maybe that's an action for me to kind of say to kind of test resources within the team as well, because I know we're being pulled in many different directions at the moment with LGR. But I can feed back, and then that could be something we could look at to kind of move forward over the next sort of couple of 2-3 months or something.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Great. Anybody? Councillor Harvey has a question.
Yes, thank you. It's really just a question, Nathaniel. The Burnham task force, which has of course come about because of the fact that we've had a visit from one of these high street task force experts, which I don't think actually told people very much more than they expected to find. But anyway, the actual construction, it really picks up what Hilary was saying. The actual construction of the working group that's following that only gave the option for one Sedgemoor member to sit, and as far as have been told, he hasn't actually been able to attend any meetings. So the other 5 Sedgemoor members from Burnham really don't really know what's going on at all. So I wonder if it would be possible to circulate some information to the other 5 of us so that we can actually have some idea. My understanding from town councillors, I'm no longer on the town council, is that they're at the moment rather floundering a bit as to what's actually happening, and a little bit disappointed that things are moving a bit slowly. So I think it's there needs to be a bit of oomph put under this Burnham task force, whoever is on it. I don't even know who is on it.
Well, Phil, absolutely happy to give you a bit of an update. It hasn't moved as quickly as we would have liked. Is the honest answer. But certainly there are things are going on in the background. I think we are proposing to adopt a model in the same way that we've got like the Bridgewater Town deal as well, something along those sorts of lines, where you've got the kind of key partners within the town centre, obviously local government representation and at the different levels of local government at the different levels of local government, but also, you know, key businesses, you know, whether they be large scale businesses or smaller businesses, community representation, because I think what it needs to do is it needs to be a sounding board for all parties. It can't just be those who kind of shout louder, because I think, you know, everyone has got a point of view, and if we really want to make a difference to the high street, then it's got to be inclusive.
Thank you.
In my view. All right.
Yep.
Thank you. I think that concludes the report that you had. There are some things that we might want to have some feedback on. I don't know whether it's going to be possible to get you to come back again, or whether it's possible to have maybe a written update that we could circulate to members, and then if there's on the back of that written update, if we feel that we need to come to invite you back to the committee to speak to us again, we could take it forward from there. Would that be possible?
Yeah, I'm happy to come back again if you're not sick of me, or yeah, a report. You know, whatever is most useful for you ultimately. Yeah, I say happy to be flexible.
Okay, I think if we could have some information perhaps back in January maybe, or December, just in terms of the update on the Levelling Up Fund progress, and if you do anything with the footfall comparison with other towns, that kind of thing. So any updates from there, a written update would be really useful, I think, for members.
Yeah, that's fine. We can do that. I mean, like I said, my fingers and toes across that. You know, we get the response about the Levelling Up Fund. So if we do get it, you'll absolutely hear about it.
Okay, that's brilliant.
Right.
Thank you so much. Really interesting presentation. And yeah, so much good work being done. So keep up the good work. And thank you to all the committee members as well. I think there's been really engaging, interesting session today, and there's been some good questions coming through. So really appreciate that that contribution. Thank you. All right, thanks, Nathaniel.
Cheers. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Okay, so moving on to item 8 today, we're just looking briefly at the work programme. It's not, it doesn't look very full at the moment. There is at the moment a plan in place to, we've got 2 dates in January. One is the 9th and one is the 23rd. The 9th was supposed to be the joint committee. And I'm proposing to change the joint committee to the 23rd and have just the community scrutiny committee meeting on the 9th. So just literally swap them over. The dates will remain the same. And so the meeting on the 9th of January would have the annual report on the climate and ecological emergency. And what I'm looking at for that really is more of a kind of a annual report, but also a roundup report, because we're getting towards getting closer to vesting day. So I've asked Christy to look at putting together a report that will show us what's been done by Sedgemoor for the ecological emergency, the climate emergency, and how it's going to go forward with the unitary, what will be taken forward in terms of what's important for Sedgemoor, and how that will be taken up with the unitary. So that's the only proposals that I've got at the moment. The March programme is free at the moment, so if anybody has any ideas that they'd like to add to the work programme, then yep, Councillor Crowe.
Just to say, I think it'd be very good to have Nathaniel back again in March before we go past the final date. It'd be nice to have a right up-to-date comment, I think, from him to see where exactly we are.
Great.
On March. I think that'd be a good idea to have him back. I found it very interesting today, and I'm sorry if I went on rather, but
no,
I am passionate about the delivery of things for the Sedgemoor people, all people of Sedgemoor in our area.
Yeah, no, I think it was really interesting. It's just so important that we don't lose focus on our towns, and that we continue to do that good work. But yeah, I think it would be a good idea to get him back in March. Let's see what he comes back with, the written update, December, January, and then probably bring him back in March, I think is a fair idea. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Harvey.
I just support. Oops. That's not me. I support what Barry was saying, and hopefully also by that stage, Nathaniel would also be able to tell us how our economic development department is going to move into the unitary. So obviously only 8 days away from vesting, I'd like him to be able to tell us about the new structure and how economic development is going to work in the unitary, and hopefully he'll still have a job, because let's face it, now that he is an extremely good officer, and I would hope those of you that are still on the unitary will remember that.
Great. Okay. Well, can I suggest then, if members have some key lines of inquiry that they would like Nathaniel to address, please send them in by email so that we've got some specific items for him to focus on. I think that would be really useful. Okay. Great. If there's nothing else to add for the work programme, I think on the previous item, Layla, all we had to do was note the update, didn't we? We didn't need to do anything else. So I think we've concluded for the day. Sorry, it's been a bit of a long one. We've still kept 2 hours, not too bad. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I think we conclude today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Doing it very well. Thank you very much. Thank you.